Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Faria Bukhari, and I was just listening to Scott Ritter's interviews. I listened to one interview that was done almost 10 days ago, and then an interview that was done like a few minutes ago. And Scott Ritter, he's an ex-US Marine, and he's a weapon inspector for the UN. He has a broad knowledge of geopolitics as well as combat battle, strategic insight. He has been advocating for the right of the people of Palestine to have their own sovereign state, and to be able to live in coexistence with Israel. He's not stripping Israelis of their right to have an independent Jewish state, but he's also trying to push for a solution, a two-state solution that's been sold to the Palestinian people by many presidents of the US for the last many years, as we have seen. And he believes that that's still a possibility. And he's saying a lot of optimistic things about the current operation going on by Hamas as a form of resistance against the Israeli ground incursions. And he is saying that for some reason, the loss of life of civilians is something to expect on the same lines as Charles de Gaulle lost about 60,000 French people who were bombed directly in World War II to be able to liberate France. I am kind of, I listened to all of this, and then he's also advocating for the restraints of Hezbollah and Iran and the rest of the Muslim nations who are surrounding Israel, and to let it stay as a limited warfare between the Israeli, forces and Hamas. First of all, the most important thing that I'm going to talk about over here is that this has already gone beyond Israel. US has sent ships. There are warships sitting off the coast of Israel, Gaza, ready to hit anybody, anytime, if anything is intended to retaliate for Israelis' aggression. So that's the first point I'm going to talk about, that this war has already gone beyond the limited spectrum of being a war or a conflict between just Hamas as a resistance group of Palestinian people in Gaza and the Israelis. We have US that has sent its warships. We have US that has actually deployed up to 2,000 of its best Marines in the region to abet the war crimes of Israeli forces. We have US that has just allowed $14.3 billion of aid to be sent to Israel. So this is not a war between just Israel and Hamas. This is already a global war between a superpower and a very small group of resistance fighters who are trying to do their best to not just protect the lives of the civilians, but also to try to protect the boundaries, the territories that have already been allocated to them, which is Gaza, to prevent a Nakba from happening. And then they're also hoping to create an independent, sovereign Palestinian nation that is acceptable to everybody in the world unanimously. So this is already wrong. When you say this is just a limited operation between Hamas and Israel, you're already wrong about that. I mean, I respect you, Scott Ritter. I mean, you're a good person. You are actually taking a lot of risk by trying to support the Palestinian people in their resistance against Israel. You're also saying Hamas is not a terrorist, which I really admire you for, because you're one of the very few American strategists who is publicly announcing that Hamas is not a terrorist group. So I admire you for that, for your courage to come up with this and to be able to face everybody and tell them the truth that Hamas is not a terrorist just because you don't like Hamas. So, but the problem is this, that you cannot narrow down that this is just a war between Hamas and Israel. It is not a war between Hamas and Israel. Right now, Hamas is only fighting for survival of the Palestinian people and is hoping to create a Palestinian state out of all this operation. But having said that, it is just Hamas. For the last 37, 38 days since the whole thing started, US has funneled exorbitant, humongous amount of arms, weapons, warships, airplanes, missiles, soldiers to Israel. And money. The ATM bank is open. How much do you want? For Ukraine, oh, Ukraine is like far away and Ukraine is like our second cousin. You are our first cousin. You are our brother. This is how US has responded to the entire October 7 event. And there is a strong, credible evidence to prove it was an inside job. So don't tell us that it is just Hamas and Israel. It is not Hamas and Israel. It is a superpower, the strongest military of the world, fighting via its war machine, Netanyahu, against a small resistance group, Hamas, that has the same objectives that the Palestinian advocates, humanitarians, activists have been flashing at the United Nations platform for decades and decades and decades. And after losing hope, after losing lives of 700,000 Palestinians, and after displacement of millions of them, Hamas has decided to pick up arms and decided to do something to put the pressure not just on Israel, but also on US and its allies to carve the sovereign state of Palestine on the geography of the world map for good. So don't tell us that this is just a war between Hamas and Israel. It is not a war between Hamas and Israel happening. What is actually happening is, what I can see, and I hope others can see too, that is why I'm doing this video, is that the entire Muslim world, including Iran, that has been the strongest advocate of the self-defense right of the Palestinian people, the entire Muslim world has been tactfully pacified. And the reason for that is that they don't want Israel to be destroyed, number one. If there is a strong retaliation from Iran, from Hezbollah, from Jordan, from Pakistan, from Turkey. Number two, they do not want to have to divert their armies from Europe, from the current Ukraine-Russia war, to the Middle East. And they don't have enough armies. They're already under a big financial and military crunch, as I say these words, because they have been exhausted and drained in the Ukraine war. Colonel McGregory, he's already mentioned that. He's already said that US, NATO cannot afford an escalation of war in the Middle East. I'm not the one saying it, and a strategist expert who's worked for the Trump administration and who has actually fought in combat battle, he is saying that. So what I'm seeing right now is a dedicated effort by Blinken and by the US staff to fund, arm, and completely support, empower the Israeli apartheid in the name of self-defense with weapons, with arms, with warships, with airplanes, and at the same time pacify the entire allies of the people of Palestine with lollipops like this, that let this be just an independent, small fight between Hamas and Israel. This is the biggest lie. This is the biggest lie I've come across. And this is not the first time that US has done that. US does it every time. We saw the Iran and Iraq war happen, and that lasted for years. We saw the Kuwait thing happen between Kuwait and Iraq, and that lasted for years. And it was always like, oh, this, and then the Yemen thing, same thing. Syria, Libya, okay? Afghanistan. Oh, this is just between two small, this is none of your business. Stay out of it. And the next thing you know is there are proxy wars happening against Pakistanis. Pakistanis are getting blown up here and there in proxy attacks from the spillage of these wars in Afghanistan. Then we are seeing the entire terrorist network going out of control of ISIS, Al-Qaeda within the Middle East. All the countries getting attacked here and there. And you're like, what the hell happened? Oh, this was supposed to be just a limited battle between one country against another. Then how come we are under attack? We were supposed to shut up, mind our own business, and we were not supposed to intervene because this was just going to stay between two small parties. And then the next thing you know is that the whole world is just erupting like a volcano. And at the end of the day, it is always the Muslims and the Muslim armies who have to fight against these terrorists and mercenaries on the paychecks of CIA, Mossad, and RAW. And they are the ones who are giving up and sacrificing their lives. Muslims are the ones who are losing their lives, their beloved ones, in the war against terrorism, the terrorism that has been empowered and armed by the US and NATO and its allies. Allies meaning Israel, Mossad, and RAW. So don't tell me that this is just a war or a battle between Hamas and Israel. No, that is the biggest lie I can hear today. It is not a battle between Hamas and Israel. It is a battle between the superpower US, its allies NATO, France, Germany, UK, Italy, European Union. There was a news on Twitter from a very reliable source. I have yet to see fake news from that source. It's a non-Muslim source. And the news was that Ursula in European Union gave millions of dollars to King Abdullah of Jordan to try to curb down the pro-Palestine campaigns. This is a news that just came up and very quietly, and I don't see it surfacing anywhere else. I respect King Abdullah a lot, and I know what his reservations are for not getting involved in this war. He doesn't have a strong army to be able to fight against superpowers like US and UK and NATO, and you just name it. But having said that, this news that he was given money from a notorious war criminal like Ursula from the European Union to try to contain the Palestinian pro-Palestine protests is really concerning. And I do want a rebuttal or I do want an official statement from the Ministry of Jordan to respond to this piece of news, to clarify that what was that money for, and if King Abdullah stands with the pro-Palestinian movements, which I do believe he does, because he is the first king and the first leader of the Muslim world to tell Biden to not even bother coming here when Biden wanted to come. So I'm a little bit confused over here. He's the first king, the first head of the state, who told Biden when everything started after October 7, when the escalation of violence started and Israel just got, how it's like a Red Bull who is shown, not a red blue bull, but a mad bull that's shown a red flag and goes totally crazy and starts attacking and bombing indiscriminately. So he said Biden wanted to attend Jordan, hoping that Jordan is its ally and is going to help, try to mitigate the situation. But King Abdullah took the stand, and we really loved him for it. And he's told Biden, "Don't you dare come here." So, and they were so pissed off in the White House. They were so upset, and the American people were so mad at Biden too for losing that leverage, that political leverage in Jordan, because they always, considered their relationship with Jordan in a positive way, that it's one of their biggest geopolitical asset. Having said that, he's the first one to say no to Biden. So for him to be incriminated as someone who took money or bribe from Ursula to try to curb down the pro-Palestinian resistance or protests, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I like King Abdullah, okay? I like him. He's a good guy. He's a good person. So I don't think he's the villain over here. Okay? Now, but having said that, the news outlet that issued this news, this fleeting news on the Twitter, is very reliable and very credible. I've yet to see a fake news coming from that source. So I really want King Abdullah to give an official statement, if he's hearing my words, and tell the whole world if Ursula gave him money or not. And I know that there have been massive protests going on in Jordan and in favor of Palestinians, against Israelis, against US, against NATO, and he has not done anything to stop them. So I'm not so sure if he would do that right now. So this is kind of a situation aggravated out of nowhere. And one of the things that I have come to realize is that they do want the Muslims in the Arab countries to get alienated towards their leaders. And in my last video also, I told you not to do that, because you will be empowering Israel and the people who are making these conspiracies against the Muslim world. You're going to basically strengthen them. You're going to make them stronger and more powerful against you. So it's very important not to, show your anger towards your leaders, towards your kings. And you can talk to them, you can express your concerns, you can do your protests, which is very important. You should continue to do them. You can flood the streets of your countries and states, asking for ceasefire, asking for peace, asking for United Nations and the global platforms to kind of put an end to Israeli apartheid and to sanction Israel, to boycott Israel, to push back Israel with all means possible. But having said that, you should not get angry, feel angry towards your leaders. Trust me, if they could, they would have invaded Israel by now. I'll repeat that. If they could, they would have invaded Israel by now. But if they haven't, then they have a strong reason not to do so. And it does not mean that they're not doing anything. It does not mean that they don't feel the pain of the Palestinian people. It does not mean that they don't care for Al-Quds. It does not mean that they are just sitting there watching silently. No. No, they are not sitting there silently. For the first time, when the OIC summit happened just on the weekend in Riyadh, we saw after a very long time, we saw Mohammed bin Salman and Ibrahim Raisi walking, strolling together in the palace, talking to each other like equals. And I think this is a very big achievement for the Muslims of the world. So this is a huge achievement. We saw Bashar al-Assad attend and be given respect and be given a voice amongst all the Muslims who have had issues with him over one thing or another. They accepted him as a brother. They accepted him as an equal. He attended the platform. He expressed his concerns. He was listened and he was given respect. So the Muslims are uniting for the first time in 1,000 years, as Colonel McGregor said. He hasn't seen it in his life as yet, but for the first time, Muslims are uniting. So, coming back to Scott Ritter, please kindly, I respect you and I love you for your love for the Palestinian people. I think when you say Hamas is not a terrorist or Hezbollah is not a terrorist, I really like you for that, because they are not terrorists. For the 2 billion Muslims of the world, they are not terrorists. Okay? So I really like you for that you said that publicly on a public platform. And I really appreciate you as a Muslim for understanding our point of view. But having said that, you cannot shrink the enormity of this battle to just being between Hamas and Israel. No, it is not. US is already involved, 100% involved. US allies, NATO, they are 100% involved. They are already there on the ground. The US boots are already on the ground. There's tangible evidence to prove US involvement in the combat battle. We saw 39 babies almost lose their lives. I think a couple of them have died already, have been killed, if I phrase it more accurately. They have been killed. If US had positive intentions, those US soldiers would have tried to send enough fuel to Al-Shifa hospital in time to save the lives of those children. All the ICU patients died, got killed by IDF and IDF allies, which means the US Marines. If the US Marines are over there as the peacemakers and the peacekeepers trying to restrain Israel from going crazy, then how come those ICU patients died? You keep on telling me that US eventually wants to create a Palestine state. Biden has said that, this should, culminate into formation of a two states. And that's what Blinken has been flashing everywhere. He's gone to Iraq, he's gone to almost every other Muslim Middle Eastern nation. He's gone to so many places and kept on flashing, we have good intentions. We do want an independent, sovereign Palestine state, and we are working for it. And this is not our war. We are just standing by on the side. Okay, but we are not really involved. No, that is not correct. US is involved. There are US warships. If the US warships were not there, I would have said, okay, you know what? Yeah, maybe. But then the US warships are there, okay? Then US sends like a nuke sub over there, okay? And then you send 2,000 of your US Marines over there. I mean, you think we are stupid? You think we are stupid? And then, okay, then you say that Iran wants to have a prosperous future. It's on the brink of getting that. So Iran should not escalate, should not get involved. You know what? No. Iran has to get involved, even if it gets a bigger war. The reason for that is that it is already a bigger war. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. You cannot shrink the enormity of this war just because it suits the national interests of US in the region. I mean, you are an American, and you have worked in the US Army, and you do have a soft corner for Israel, so you're going to say such things. And you're talking to people who already have a soft corner for Israel, despite every war crime that Israel has committed. And you've yourself said for the last 7 decades that not US, but Israel has been committing all these war crimes with complete impunity. But Scott, between you and me, who has given Israel that impunity? US has. United Nations has flashed so many resolutions, they all get vetoed by one country. That's the United States of America. Every US president since John F. Kennedy has supported all war crimes, all UN Charter violations, all Geneva Convention violations, all human rights violations, all atrocities of Israel without any reservations. All presidents. None of them stood up for the Palestinian people. You cannot say, oh, I support Palestine, but it's okay if they get bombed. No. No. Don't give us this. Don't even bother to get there. That you support Palestine and you support their right to exist and be treated as humans, but more than 11,000 have been killed. ICU patients get killed. 39 babies in incubators. 2-3 have been killed. The others are right now wrapped in aluminium or something to be kept warm. And you're saying that because World War II, Charles de Gaulle did this, and is this World War II? Is this World War III? So we should be okay. Yeah, we are going to create a Palestine state eventually. So it's okay if if there's a carnage of like 12,000 Palestinians. We should be okay with that? No, we should not be okay with that. What if those were 12,000 Americans in place of Palestinians, or 12,000 Europeans, or 12,000 British, or 12,000 Canadians, or 12,000 Australians? No, we should not be okay with that. We cannot be okay with that. If we are humans, if we have a conscience, no matter how good the cause is, you cannot be okay with the indiscriminate bombing of Israel that is decimating, carpet bombing Gaza. This is just not acceptable. And I know I'm trying to understand your point that, yeah, this is a sacrifice, this is martyrdom. Yes, the Palestinian people are real big heroes. They're looking at the greater good. But having said that, what is the role of the American regime in all of this? They are involved in this war 100%. If anything, Netanyahu is just their robot. Netanyahu is just their war machine, their machine gun. The real masterminds, the real grand Vlad the Impaler of 2023 is Biden, Joe Biden. He has been arming indiscriminately. He has been funding this indiscriminately. He has been sending boots on the ground indiscriminately to support and to empower this apartheid, this genocide. Hospitals are getting bombed. What are you doing? 4-hour humanitarian pause? Is that your response? I mean, seriously? Nobody's sanctioning Israel, nobody's sanctioning Netanyahu, nobody's sanctioning Joe Biden in the United Nations. More than 100 UN RWA workers have been killed by the Biden administration. How come nobody is sanctioning Biden for this, for the murder of those 100 UN RWA workers? 60 hostages who would have been alive today if mediation and talks and dialogue had been adopted by the US regime. How come the families of those hostages who have been killed by the indiscriminate bombing of the Biden administration, how come those families are not petitioning the US president in the US court over the cold-blooded, premeditated murder of those hostages? US is fighting this war for one reason or another. We can talk about this later, but this is not a small war between just Hamas and Israel. No. US is the biggest actor, biggest party that is actively involved in combat battle currently on the grounds of Gaza. This is already a global war. And by just trying to tell Iran to restrain because prosperity is waiting for Iran, or other countries like Turkey to restrain, or Pakistan to restrain, because you could have this, for this number of reasons, that's not going to work. Just like it did not work in the Iran-Iraq war, did not work in the Afghanistan war, did not work in the Libya war, did not work in the Syria war, did not work in the Yemen war. The carnage spreads across the Middle East, in the entire Muslim nation world. So this is not a limited war, period. Thank you. Bye-bye.